Okay, so let's, I want to just do some array stuff. And yeah. Okay, so here's our main method. Okay, and again, in the beginning, I'm going to declare and instantiate or assign in two different steps, just to underscore the fact that declaring and assigning are two different things. Okay, so now I claimed before that, well, let me, working backwards. Let's see what happens if I just sort of print that array. And I say that what you would expect is the values, right? But what I get is this. Okay, why? Well, this is an object, and this is there's actually information here. This is the telling me what type it is, and then what this is this is just something which is called a hash code. If you're a C programmer, you may think that this is the location of the memory, and that would be wrong. Java cannot access the memory in your ROM. This is a totally arbitrary number. This bracket I actually says this is an array of ints. That's sort of a shorthand.
It's prefix I can put in front of variable's name to them.
Pardon me?
I know in C there's the different prefixes for variables, but I want to have the reference to the memory or the value in the memory.
You cannot. No, in Java you cannot. Java cannot access the memory. In Java they have what's called a sandbox, and that's just this location that you cannot escape it. And one of the reasons for that is that if you can access memory, then and particularly like in a language like C, I can start incrementing pointers outside the memory. In Java, you simply cannot do that. This is not a memory location; it's just an arbitrary hash. That's all it is. So just understand that. All right. So, but. Okay, now here's a red squiggly, and it says cannot find symbol variable arrays. I know arrays as a class, but one of the things I can do is simply right-click somewhere and say fix imports, and then what it will do is it will import this. And as I said, import is one of the worst names things because it's not importing anything. All it's doing is saying, I can use this value, I can use arrays in an unqualified way. Nevertheless, okay, now when I run it, okay, as I said, remember, this is initialized to its default value. When I instantiate an array, it's initialized to the default values. The default value of ints is 0. Similarly, let's make a short array of strings and do the same thing. And remember, we said the default value of an uninitialized object is null. So this should give me 5 nulls. And if it doesn't, then okay, so null. All right, let me show you what happens. Remember, I claimed that this was the case, but I only did it on PowerPoint. And if you're If you're skeptical, which you should be, I say, well, is that really what happens? So in fact, in general, what you should do is if there's a question that comes up, if you think I've said something that's totally wrong, or if you think it should be something else, how can you do it? Well, we can do it by arguing about it. You can kind of do it by scribbling on a whiteboard, or you can open up NetBeans and try it out and see what happens. Okay, that's the ultimate arbiter. Okay, so on the face of it, this kind of makes sense, and it looks like what I'm trying to do. Again, just to kind of beat this poor dead horse. It looks like I've called this thing copy. I think I'm making a copy of this thing, and I want to change this value. And let's see. And let's see that we've in fact made the change in the copy, but let's print values again. Okay? Because I know you probably didn't believe me when and that's okay. If I say something, don't take my word for it. Try it out and test it. Okay? So, here's my copy. It gave me 10 in that fourth place, but it also changed values. Okay, and that's an unintended consequence, and that can be disastrous. Because you think you're doing one thing and keeping your original data pristine, and now I've kind of mucked it up. Instead, here what I'll what I'll do, I've already defined copy to be an array of ints, and now I'm going to assign it to a different array, and that different array is going to be a clone of the array. And I'm going to comment this one out and move this down here. Okay. Now copy will reflect the change, but values will not. Okay, so we see copy has the 10 here, but the values have not. Because I've cloned it, I've created a separate copy, and that separate copy is not going to affect the original copy. Okay, so that's the main point there.